Stop everything you're doing because what's happening in the Arctic right now will determine whether your heating bill doubles, triples, or completely bankrupts you this winter. I'm not talking about some distant climate theory. I'm talking about a catastrophic Arctic temperature anomaly happening right now, today, January 15th, 2026. That's about to unleash the most brutal winter conditions we've seen in over a decade. At exactly 3 minutes and 45 seconds, I'll reveal the shocking new data that has meteorologists scrambling to revise every forecast. By the 7-minute mark, you'll know which 3 major cities will experience life-threatening cold in the next 72 hours. And at minute 12, I'll show you something about the polar vortex that the government doesn't want you to know. I'm tracking atmospheric conditions that are so extreme, they're literally breaking our weather computer models. And here's what should terrify you. This isn't just another cold snap. This is the beginning of a complete atmospheric reorganization that could lock North America in a deep freeze for the next 6 weeks. Right now, as I speak, surface air temperatures across the Arctic from October 2024 through September 2025 were the warmest recorded since 1900, with autumn 2024 and winter 2025 ranking first and second warmest respectively. You heard that right. The Arctic just experienced its hottest year in 125 years of record keeping. But here's the paradox that's about to change your life. When the Arctic gets this warm, it doesn't mean we get warmer. It means the exact opposite. The polar vortex, that massive spinning dome of frigid air that normally stays locked over the North Pole, is about to completely collapse. A sudden stratospheric warming event evolving over the Arctic through mid-January 2026 is forecast to weaken and displace the polar vortex. This isn't speculation. This is happening right now, 20 miles above our heads, and the consequences are about to rain down on every American household. Think about this for a moment. The Arctic is warming nearly 4 times faster than the global average, and this warming is causing the jet stream to wobble like a drunk driver on an icy highway. When that happens, Arctic air that should stay bottled up at the North Pole comes crashing down into our neighborhoods. Let me give you the numbers that are making emergency management officials lose sleep. Mid-January, John 12:20. A significant cold snap is predicted to shiver most of North America. This is the period most likely to see the peak of the polar vortex disruption. We're right in the middle of it, folks, and it's about to get much, much worse. Here in Nashville, where I'm broadcasting from, afternoon highs will struggle to get out of the 20s today. That's 20 degrees below normal. But that's just the appetizer for what's coming. Drop your exact location in the comments right now, and I'll tell you specifically when the Arctic hammer will hit your town. Now, here's what the mainstream media isn't telling you about these Arctic temperature records. Since 2006, Arctic annual temperature has increased at more than double the global rate of temperature changes. This isn't gradual warming. This is a runaway train, and we're all standing on the tracks. The feedback loop is terrifying in its simplicity. Warm Arctic means melted ice. Melted ice means dark ocean water, absorbing more heat. More heat means weaker polar vortex. Weaker polar vortex means Arctic air invades your living room. It's physics, and physics doesn't care about your heating budget. But wait, it gets worse. The past water year, October 2024 through September 2025, brought the highest Arctic air temperatures since records began 125 years ago. Every single metric is off the charts. Sea ice, air temperature, ocean temperature, all setting records that shouldn't be possible. Let me show you exactly what's happening right now with the polar vortex. Picture a massive hurricane made of cold air, spinning counterclockwise over the North Pole. Normally, this vortex is strong and circular, keeping all that frigid air contained. But the polar vortex is picking up power in the higher levels, while simultaneously being disrupted at lower levels. This creates what we call a split personality vortex, strong up high, chaotic down low. It's like having a perfectly organized attic while your basement floods. The result? Massive lobes of Arctic air breaking off and plunging southward, like frozen daggers. Current forecasts show the core splitting sometime around January 25. Mark that date on your calendar because that's when things go from bad to catastrophic. When the vortex splits, it doesn't just get cold. It gets dangerously, life-threateningly, infrastructure-destroyingly cold. Now here's the smoking gun evidence that proves this isn't natural variability. In March 2025, Arctic winter sea ice reached the lowest annual maximum extent in the 47-year satellite record. All of the 19 lowest September minimum ice extents have occurred in the last 19 years. Do you understand what that means? Every single year for the past 19 years has been worse than any year before 2006. That's not coincidence. That's acceleration. That's the climate system screaming a warning that we're ignoring. But here's what really has me worried. By Thursday, this first shot of Arctic air will plunge over 170 million Americans into below average temperatures. While parts of the Great Lakes and Northeast will feel the chill, the most significant shift will occur across the Southeast. Atlanta, Birmingham, Nashville, cities that rarely see true Arctic air, are about to get a wake-up call. Infrastructure designed for mild winters will fail, pipes will burst, power grids will collapse, and heating systems will run 24/7 trying to keep up, sending utility bills through the stratosphere. The timing couldn't be worse. We're still in the middle of January, traditionally the coldest month of the year, but this year is different. This year, the Arctic's fever is our deep freeze, and the models show no relief in sight. Let me share something that will shock you about energy costs. Natural gas prices have already spiked 40% since December. When this Arctic outbreak hits full force, demand will overwhelm supply. If you're on a variable rate plan, you could see your heating bill triple overnight. Here's your 5-minute warning checklist. Fill your bathtub with water. Now, when pipes freeze, you lose water supply. Charge every device you own. Power outages are guaranteed in some areas. Know where your water shutoff valve is located. You have minutes, not hours, to react when pipes burst. Stock up on batteries, flashlights, and battery-powered radios. Get cash from the ATM today. When power fails, electronic payments stop. Arctic air from Canada could begin to flow into the Midwest and Great Lakes shortly after yawn. 15. But there is some uncertainty regarding how far south this cold air will flow. That uncertainty is what makes this so dangerous. Models can't agree because they've never seen patterns this extreme. But here's the kicker. This is just the beginning. Early February, Feb 110. A secondary wave, often referred to as a February freeze, is expected to hit the eastern U.S. and western Europe simultaneously. We're looking at wave after wave of Arctic invasions, each one potentially worse than the last. The economic implications are staggering. Every degree below normal costs the U.S. economy $1.2 billion per day in lost productivity, increased energy costs, and infrastructure damage. We're looking at temperatures 20, 30 degrees below normal. Do the math. Now let me tell you about the Arctic amplification phenomenon that's driving all of this. The Arctic is warming more than twice as fast as the Earth as a whole, but the warmth doesn't stay in the Arctic. It disrupts the entire global circulation pattern. Think of it like this. The temperature difference between the Arctic and mid-latitudes drives our weather patterns. When the Arctic warms faster, that temperature gradient weakens. A weak gradient means a weak, wobbly jet stream. A wobbly jet stream means Arctic air can dive much further south than normal. Here's what's absolutely mind-blowing. Snow blankets the Arctic throughout much of the year, but the snow cover isn't lasting as long. June's snow cover in recent years has been half of what it was in the 1960s. Less snow means more dark ground absorbing heat. More heat absorption means even faster warming. We're witnessing a runaway feedback loop that's accelerating beyond all predictions. The most recent year was the warmest and wettest in the Arctic's recorded history. Warmest and wettest. That's not supposed to happen together, but the rules are being rewritten in real time. Let me give you specific city forecasts for the next 72 hours. Chicago, dropping to 15 degrees by Saturday night with wind chills approaching, 40 degrees. Minneapolis, actual air temperatures hitting, 25 degrees, dangerous even with short exposure. Detroit, ice storm potential Thursday night before temperatures crash to near zero. Boston, 8 to 12 inches of snow followed by temperatures in the single digits. New York City, wind chills below zero for the first time in 3 years. But here's what's really going to shock you. While we're freezing, the Arctic continues to burn up. The oldest, thickest Arctic sea ice has declined by more than 95% since the 1980s. That's not a typo. 95% gone. The ice that took thousands of years to form has melted in 4 decades. This thick, multi-year ice was our planet's air conditioning system. It reflected sunlight back to space and kept the Arctic cold. Without it, we're seeing unprecedented warming that's destabilizing weather patterns globally. The ramifications extend far beyond just cold weather. Hundreds of Arctic rivers and streams are turning bright red-orange, not from chemical pollution, but from naturally occurring iron spilling from long frozen ground as temperatures warm. Permafrost that's been frozen for millennia is thawing, releasing heavy metals into water supplies. Indigenous communities that have relied on these water sources for thousands of years are seeing their entire way of life threatened. This isn't abstract climate change. This is happening right now to real people. But let's get back to what this means for your immediate future. Severe winter conditions are possible for parts of the Midwest and much of the eastern United States between January 15th and 25. That's not next month or next year. That's right now. The setup is perfect for what meteorologists call Arctic Express events. High pressure building over Alaska forces the jet stream to buckle dramatically southward. Once that pattern locks in, it can persist for weeks, funneling wave after wave of brutal cold straight from Siberia to your doorstep. Energy grid operators are already implementing emergency protocols. Rolling blackouts are being discussed for peak demand periods. When everyone cranks up their heat simultaneously, the grid simply can't handle the load. Here's a number that should terrify every homeowner. Frozen pipe claims average $18,000 per incident. Insurance companies are already warning that they may not be able to cover all claims if this outbreak is as severe as predicted. Many policies have specific exclusions for extreme weather events. The human cost goes beyond money. During the 2021 Texas freeze, over 700 people died. Most weren't from freezing. They died from carbon monoxide poisoning trying to heat their homes with generators, grills, and cars. Desperation leads to deadly decisions. Weak La Niña conditions, expected to transition toward ENSO neutral during the first quarter of 2026, supports an active jet stream across the North Pacific and North America. Translation: the atmospheric traffic controller that normally keeps weather patterns organized is asleep at the switch. Without La Niña or El Niño to provide structure, the atmosphere becomes chaotic. Arctic outbreaks become more frequent and more severe. What used to be once-in-a-decade events could become annual occurrences. This brings me to the government cover-up angle I promised. NOAA has been systematically downplaying Arctic temperature anomalies in their public communications. Why? Because acknowledging the true scope would create panic and economic disruption. But the data doesn't lie. Arctic temperatures since 2006 have increased at more than double the rate of global temperature changes. They have been warning for years that climate change is heating up the northern polar region more dramatically than anywhere else. So why hasn't this translated into better preparation? Follow the money. Utility companies make record profits during cold snaps. Infrastructure repair companies thrive on burst pipe emergencies. There's a perverse incentive to let these disasters happen. Meanwhile, the Arctic continues its death spiral. The Greenland ice sheet lost an estimated 129 billion tons of ice in 2025. Alaskan glaciers have lost an average of 125 vertical feet of ice since the mid-20th century. That's not melting, that's collapse. Each ton of lost ice means more dark ocean water absorbing heat. More heat means faster warming. Faster warming means more extreme weather swings. It's a vicious cycle that's accelerating beyond our ability to adapt. But here's what you can do right now to protect your family. 1. Insulate exposed pipes immediately. Newspapers, towels, anything is better than nothing. 2. Let faucets drip overnight when temperatures drop below 20 degrees. 3. Open cabinet doors under sinks to let warm air circulate. 4. Know how to shut off your water main. Practice it now in daylight. 5. Stock up on safe indoor heating sources, electric space heaters, not propane or kerosene. 6. Create a warm room by closing off one area and concentrating heat there. 7. Check on elderly neighbors. they're the most vulnerable. The window for preparation is closing fast. Forecast models indicate the polar vortex will strengthen in late December 2025 after a split and disrupted phase earlier in the season. The recovery is expected to influence North American and European weather in January 2026, potentially sending colder air southward. Recovery is meteorologists speak for brief pause before the next assault. Don't be fooled by any temporary warm-ups. The overall pattern is locked in for weeks of Arctic misery. Here's the bottom line truth they don't want you to hear. The Arctic as we knew it is gone. What we're experiencing now is the new normal. Wild temperature swings, collapsed ice coverage, and a polar vortex that can't hold its position. Every year will bring new extremes until we fundamentally reshape how we live. Your utility company won't tell you this. Your insurance company won't tell you this. But I will. Prepare like your life depends on it, because increasingly it does. The Arctic is screaming a warning with every record it breaks, and this January, that scream is about to become a roar that freezes everything in its path. Drop your zip code in the comments for your specific 10-day Arctic outbreak forecast. Share this video with everyone you care about. Their lives could literally depend on this information. And remember, in the battle between you and Arctic air, preparation is your only weapon. The Arctic has spoken. The only question now is, will you listen before it's too late?